Hello, everybody. This is Fernando for the latest Silent Hill podcast. Wow, it's been a while since I've done these videos here on this playlist. A little over 2 years, to be in fact. I had to basically stop them because of some of the YouTube policies associated with the video and the restrictions on them. But with Konami basically now doing 4 new games and also a new movie, I thought, why not? Let's try this out again and then see how this goes. And who knows, if there's more interest, I may be able to do more variations of these videos too. So I'm going to pick up where I left off, and in this case, having to do with more of the monsters featured within Silent Hill 4 The Room. In this case, it's going to be with the next set of monsters encountered, which are the ghosts. Now, there's multiple ghosts within the game, absolutely just a huge amount. I'm not going to talk about them individually. Instead, I'm just going to talk about the ghosts themselves as a subject within the game, if that makes sense. So more along the lines of their characteristics, what to do about them, how they came to be, and so on. And then some of the other videos, I'm going to do them individually afterward. But you're looking at a representation of them here. They're just aptly titled as Ghost. And let's go ahead and let's talk about them now. So what are these ghosts that are within the Silent Hill 4 The Room video game? Well, they're very, very fascinating in the sense that it starts off right from the beginning of the game, in fact, right when you first started, with a visit from one of these ghosts. These ghosts are so memorable, by the way, too. I remember first seeing the teaser/trailer associated with Silent Hill 4 The Room way back when, and it was just seeing these floating ghosts around, how menacing they look, how evil they looked. Instantly, it just grabbed my attention, and when the game later on came out, it definitely made its mark with regards to what they did. But yes, ghosts are essentially in the game like they're presented in the real life. Like, in other words, how you and I perceive ghosts to be in the real world. They are there floating about. They can go through certain things. They have noises associated with them too, and they can cause great harm, especially to the player, Henry, throughout the game too. So it definitely something that you're going to avoid as much as possible when it comes to these ghosts, and there's very little harm that you can do to them, save but for some certain items that can stop them. Now, nothing really like that, it seems like that can actually outright kill them, and if you can even get that far, considering that they're ghosts already, but at least you can immobilize them in a very few set of ways. More on that here in a minute. But yes, let's talk about the ghosts themselves, the physical characteristics. So think of them as just your average humans in the game, but now they've almost been like zombified, and they happen to have the traits associated with the ghosts of being able to float around. They haunt particular locations throughout the game, right from the beginning, or right there from the apartment within Henry Townsend's living domicile, and then also throughout other parts of the game, floating about throughout other apartments and then other areas too. The locations, in fact, is classified as it being everywhere. You can encounter these ghosts in and around the game at almost any point, it seems like. And that's what makes them so hard to fend off, because they can be everywhere and then they can also have very little harm done to them. They're just basically there to cause harm to Henry, and then you're going to have to figure out a way to try to get around them. It's mainly just trying to get away from them. That's the main thing that you can do when it comes to encountering these ghosts. But yeah, they look basically zombified. They have a decaying set of skin. Their head is hanging down. They're floating about with their arms almost like in a dead position, considering, of course, their stance and that they've actually been dead for who knows how long. There's two versions of them when it comes to these ghosts, too. One of them is known as the old type ghosts, and the other one are known as the new type ghosts. The difference between them is this: the old type ghosts are the victims of Walter Sullivan from before Henry's time. Like, in other words, before he was actually there within the apartment. There's a multitude of them too. Again, I'm going to feature those once they come about in the game, in other video soon. And then there's the new type ghosts. These are the ghosts that actually become ghosts when Henry meets them in the real world. So in other words, they were real people right there talking to Henry at certain points throughout the game. And then later on, Walter, or they meet the fate of others that cause them to become dead, either by Walter or other people's hands. And when that happens, then they end up becoming new ghosts. But they basically are the same type of characteristics as the old ghosts. It's just a difference of when Henry did or didn't meet them. And then these ghosts themselves, the way that they move about again is just coming out of the wall. They have that very memorable entrance where you start seeing almost like this blood, if you could call it that, coming out of one portion of a wall. And then when that happens, they're almost squeezing themselves through anything associated with that wall itself, making just those groaning, those awful groaning sounds. Hearing those parts of the game too, you're going to hear them first before you see them. And then there they are pushing themselves through, and then they come out and then they start floating. Some of them even make almost like a gurgling type sound whenever they have other things impacting them as well. And then there they are just chasing you around almost at the speed associated with your walking level. So you're going to have to basically run about as quick as you can. Easy enough. The only problem though is the game is also throwing other type of enemies at you at the same time, as I saw the user playing there on the YouTube channel as they were experiencing. So ghosts, in other words, are there. They're very hard to get around, and they can cause much damage. How they do damage is this. If they're, and this is also what makes them kind of freaky at the same time, because they're the only ones that I know of that can do this. If they're around Henry during parts of the game, even just close by, they're actually causing damage to him. Apparently, they have some kind of aura, something else, maybe just an evil presence or something else entirely different. But being near Henry causes him to have some type of headaches, and then that causes over a small amount of time to actually damage his health. So if even you are around them, and let's say you're pinned in an area, let's say a corner of a location, then those things don't even have to touch you. They just have to be close by. And then that's when you start having your health go down. And then that's one attack. The other one is this. If they actually are able to get as close to you as possible, some will actually reach into Henry's chest. Remember, they're ghosts. They're transparent. They're translucent. Like, they can actually physically go through things. In this case, they're going to go through Henry's chest, grab at his heart, and then that causes even more damage at the same time too. So definitely a creature or a type of monster that you do not want to have any contact with, either close or far away. You just basically have to run about as quickly as you can and then try to get to the next exit. And then here are the ways that you can somewhat stop them. You can't kill them. Again, they're already dead, but you can at least try to stop them. And what makes the game so brilliant is that these are few and far between. It's not like with the regular monsters in a Silent Hill game where you have like a crowbar, if you have something else that you can just melee at them as much as you can, and then that kills them. Now with these ghosts, they're practically invincible. You can just hope to stop them. One of them is this. It's something called the Saint Medallion, which you're looking at here. This basically stops the ghost from damaging you around that time, but after a certain period, they end up breaking. So again, it's something that's only temporary when it comes to its fix. The next one is known as the Silver Bullet, which you're looking at here. You can place this into a handgun, and then it causes a ghost to be stopped as well. Only problem with that is there's a very, very, very limited supply. In fact, it's down to about maybe 3 or 4 of these bullets throughout the entire game. So it's going to be pretty hard to run into them. And even then, it's going to be even harder to use them for too long because of what's happening as far as their limited supply. And then the next item is something called the Sword of Obedience, which you're looking at here. That essentially causes you to impale the sword onto the ghost itself, impale them onto the ground if possible, and then that stops the ghost from floating around. It'll stay there in that location for the entirety of the game unless you actually move the sword away. So in other words, unless you take it away, then that ghost is stuck there pretty much forever. That's pretty much it. So but the problem though is that sword, when it's stuck, you can't carry it with you afterward. So you can see that it's also yet another limited supply. So brilliance of the game on that part too. Make these enemies, these ghosts, as hard as can be, and at the same time have the weapons that can do anything against them, have them be very limited, and then at the same time not cause any permanent damage to them. So those are the other items. Oh, one more item too, something called the Holy Candle, which you're looking at here. This one allows you to burn this candle, and it stops the ghost from being around that area that you're at. The only problem though is, like any real world candle, it burns out. So you again only have a small amount of time to be able to do anything with them. But otherwise, that's pretty much it. That's all the information associated with these ghosts. These are the closest thing to, as well, to the world of Silent Hill, truly having monsters created from people. You know how in Silent Hill 3, there was that memorable line where that guy was saying monsters, they look like monsters to you, implying that the people themselves are actually the victims, in other words, are the monsters themselves in Silent Hill. And Silent Hill just happens to make these people into monsters. These are the closest physical representation of that, because here you have actual victims, actual people themselves that in turn became ghosts/monsters within the game. And so there they are floating around. They just have this horrible looking decayed look to them, and then they're just forever just damned, basically just floating around in that game and trying to see what they can do in terms of harm to the user themselves. And then you're seeing some of the behind the scenes stuff associated with these monsters. They've appeared in other games as well. There was one as far as Book of Memories, and then I don't think they've appeared in anything else afterward. But if anyone knows any of that part, let me know too as well. It would be great too if these ghosts actually make an appearance within any of the films. How fascinating and great would it be to be able to see them there too? But otherwise, let me know what you guys think. Post those comments below as far as the game, about the Silent Hill 4, and then these ghosts as monsters. And remember, I'll be doing the individual monsters/ghosts themselves in future videos. All right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care.